Billy was the king of mean. He ruled the playground with an iron fist. Smaller kids scattered like frightened pigeons when he approached. He loved to shove, to trip, to taunt. His laughter was a weapon, sharp and cruel. Tommy was Billy's favorite target. Small and shy, Tommy was an easy mark. Billy would sneak up on him, punch him in the gut, and then laugh as Tommy doubled over in pain. "Crybaby," Billy would sneer, and the other kids would join in, their laughter echoing Tommy's pain. One day, Billy saw Tommy reading a comic book behind the school. He crept up silently, his shadow falling over Tommy like a hawk about to snatch its prey. Billy slammed his fist into Tommy's back hard. Tommy crumpled to the ground, gasping for breath. "What a weakling," Billy mocked, his voice dripping with disdain. He walked away, leaving Tommy curled up on the ground, tears streaming down his face. The annual town fair had arrived, a kaleidoscope of bright lights, blaring music, and the tempting aroma of fried food. It was a sensory overload, but strangely exhilarating. Billy loved the rides, the games, the chance to win a giant stuffed animal. This year, there was a new attraction, a giant mirror maze. Its entrance was framed with flashing lights and a sign that boasted, "Get lost in a world of reflections." People were lined up, eager to test their sense of direction and have their perceptions challenged. Billy spotted Tommy near the cotton candy stand. His eyes glinted with malicious intent. He would have his fun in the maze, make Tommy even more miserable than usual. An idea began to form in his mind, a cruel prank that would leave Tommy lost and terrified. Billy shoved his way past the waiting children, ignoring their protests. He darted into the maze, the entrance flapping behind him like a hungry mouth. The air inside was cool and smelled faintly of dust and ozone. The maze was a labyrinth of mirrors, each reflecting an infinite number of Billys. He saw himself from every angle, smirking, scowling, eyes gleaming with mischief. He laughed, the sound echoing eerily in the confined space. He spotted Tommy ahead, his small figure dwarfed by the towering mirrors. Tommy was walking cautiously, his head turning from side to side as he tried to navigate the confusing pathways. A surge of malicious glee shot through Billy. Time to have some fun. Billy bumped into his first mirror, his reflection rippling like water disturbed by a stone. The image that stared back was not his own. It was Tommy, his face contorted in pain, his eyes welled up with tears. Billy felt a jolt, a strange pang of guilt, but he brushed it aside. He stumbled into another mirror. This time he saw himself shoving a smaller child on the playground. He heard the child's cry, felt the impact of his own shove. The guilt intensified, a knot forming in his stomach. Each mirror he encountered showed him a scene from his past, each one highlighting his cruelty. He saw himself tripping classmates, calling them names, laughing at their misfortune. With every reflection, the guilt grew, twisting his insides, a cold dread seeping into his bones. Billy backed away from a mirror that showed him spitting on a girl's shoes. He remembered the incident, the girl's look of disgust, the way she had scrubbed at her shoes with tears in her eyes. He felt a sharp pain in his own chest, as if he were the one being suffocated by shame. He ran blindly through the maze, desperate to escape the accusing reflections, but the mirrors were relentless. They showed him every unkind word, every cruel act, every bit of pain he had inflicted on others. And with each image, he felt the pain himself, 1,000-fold. The air grew heavy, suffocating. Billy felt a pressure building in his head, a high-pitched whine ringing in his ears. The maze seemed to be closing in on him, the mirrors pressing closer, suffocating him with his own reflection. Billy stumbled again, crashing into a mirror. This time something was different. His reflection was younger, chubbier, his hair a mess of unkempt curls. He felt a strange tingling sensation throughout his body. He looked down at his hands. They were smaller, his fingers plumper. Panic surged through him. He ran into another mirror. He was even younger now, maybe 7 or 8 years old. His clothes felt loose, his shoes too big. He kicked off the shoes, sending them flying across the mirrored floor. He ran again, bumping into another mirror. This time he was 5, his clothes hanging off his thin frame. His socks felt scratchy, his shorts constricting.
Billy wandered aimlessly, his heart pounding in his chest. He felt a strange tingling sensation all over his body, like 1,000 tiny pinpricks. His vision blurred, and the maze around him seemed to spin. He bumped into a mirror, his reflection a stranger staring back at him. He felt a warm, wet sensation spreading through his pants. A wave of shame washed over him as he realized he had wet himself. He had not done that in years, not since he was a little kid. But here he was, lost and scared, feeling like a little boy again. Tears welled up in his eyes, blurring his vision even further. He sank to the floor, his back against a cold, hard mirror. He felt small and helpless, completely alone in the maze of mirrors. He whimpered, a small, pathetic sound that was swallowed by the maze. Suddenly, he saw a figure approaching through the maze. It was a police officer, his face etched with concern. The officer must have noticed Billy's absence and entered the maze to find him. Relief washed over Billy as he realized he was no longer alone. The officer, a kind man named Officer Johnson, gently helped Billy to his feet. He spoke to him in a soothing voice, calming the frightened boy. Officer Johnson noticed the tear streaks on Billy's face and the dampness on his pants. He didn't say anything, only smiled kindly and wrapped his jacket around Billy's small frame. Officer Johnson led Billy out of the maze. The bright sunlight momentarily blinded Billy, and he had to shield his eyes. His parents were waiting anxiously by the exit, their faces etched with worry. When they saw their son, they rushed towards him, engulfing him in a hug. But Billy pulled away, confused. They seemed different, their faces younger, their voices higher. And why were they looking at him with such a mixture of relief and shock? News of Billy's strange transformation spread like wildfire. People were baffled by the incident, unable to comprehend what had happened inside the maze. The amusement park, facing intense scrutiny and a slew of lawsuits, was forced to shut down the mirror maze indefinitely. A team of engineers and architects inspected the maze, searching for any logical explanation for Billy's regression. They checked the mirrors, the lighting, even the very structure of the maze, but they found nothing out of the ordinary. The maze seemed perfectly safe, a fact that only deepened the mystery. In the end, unable to explain the strange event and fearing further incidents, the park owners decided to dismantle the maze. Piece by piece, the mirrors were taken down, the maze that was once a source of amusement and wonder reduced to a pile of rubble. Yet, the question remained, what had happened to Billy inside the maze? Billy's parents took him to the best doctors in the country, desperate for an explanation. They ran countless tests, scans, and analyses, but the results left them even more puzzled. Physically, Billy was perfectly healthy, but mentally, he had regressed to the state of a 5-year-old child. He had no memory of his life beyond that age. Doctors were baffled. They had never encountered such a case before. A case where a child seemingly regressed in age without any physical cause. Some whispered about psychological trauma, others about psychosomatic disorders, but no one could offer a definitive explanation. Billy's case became a medical anomaly, a puzzle that even the brightest minds couldn't solve. Life took an unexpected turn for Billy and his family. It was difficult at first, adjusting to their new reality. They had to reteach Billy everything, from tying his shoelaces to reading his favorite bedtime stories. But slowly, they adapted. Billy, with the innocence of a 5-year-old, never seemed to question his situation. He embraced his new life with enthusiasm. He was a happy child, always smiling, always eager to learn and play. His parents, though heartbroken by the loss of their teenage son, couldn't help but be charmed by the sweet, innocent child Billy had become. Years passed, and Billy grew up loved and cherished. He had no memory of the boy he had been, the boy lost in the mirror maze. He was content with his life, his family, and the world around him. The mysterious mirror maze faded into a distant memory, a tale whispered in hushed tones, a reminder of the day Billy stepped into a world of reflections and emerged a different person.